Yeah.
Sir.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Pradeep, the Principal, Dr. Sriramlu, all the faculty members of the Devaraj University at Kolar, participants, and my dear friends. At the outset, I must thank Dr. Vinuta when actually she met me in one of the conferences and requested whether I could deliver a lecture for the university. And I said yes. And as days came nearby, there were lots of things that were going on even in our university. I was wondering whether I actually can keep up with this commitment. Thanks for sort of rescheduling it by 2 hours and making it at 1 o'clock. And I'm sure we will try to have an interactive session after I give some of my ideas. I am quite open to certain questions in case people have on this particular talk. The subject matter that Vinuta wanted me to deal with is on faculty development programs. That has become the order of the day, and the erstwhile Medical Council of India and presently the National Medical Commission has taken quite a lot of steps to see that this happens. So I'll share my slides and then start off with my presentation. Can you all see this?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So the topic is quite interesting, and
So
actually I was.
Can you make it into slideshow, sir? Slideshow.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Slideshow. This one. Yeah, is that okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the it's an interesting topic, and when I looked up the literature, there is quite a lot of extensive material that is actually available, and I thought I'll plan my talk with certain objectives that at the end of this particular discussion for about 40-45 minutes, we would have probably become wiser in terms of some of these terminologies and what we understand by that. To begin with, as an introductory note, I thought I will cover some of the roles that a medical teacher or a medical educator needs to sort of follow and be an example. Then we will also have some understanding of what exactly is faculty development program, whether there is a need, and if there is a need, how exactly we go about it. What are the various domains of the faculty development programs? Some principles that we need to follow. Then actual topic of how exactly this has helped in implementing the competency-based curriculum that has been introduced by the National Medical Commission since the year 2019. And most of you must be experiencing students who are following this particular curriculum. I'll also spend and present a few slides on the Sriher experience as a case study. And I know that at Kolar, you have got an energetic, dynamic health profession education unit, and it has also been doing extraordinarily good work, and you have created it as a center of excellence. And I congratulate all the members who have contributed towards the development of such a center. Now, medical profession, at the end of the day, when you look at, it is all about compassion. It is about service. It is about being altruistic and so establishing trustworthiness. However, if you find the training that we were providing to the students, all these aspects were sort of lost into the hidden curriculum, and people will have to develop this on their own, and they have to develop this by watching their role models or the seniors. So it is an important thing that this needs to be addressed, and this was addressed by the National Medical Commission when they prepared the vision document. And that is how the ATCOM module came into being. The role of a medical teacher carries the responsibility of conveying and decoding the language of medical science into the minds of the learners. How it is not transmission of the notes of the teacher to the notes of the student without getting into the brain of either, but it is totally a different ball game, and the one who paves the way in the making of our future physicians and surgeons. Now, this is a slide I would like to spend at least about 2-3 minutes in explaining to you that there are very different roles that a medical educator needs to perform. Unfortunately, in the past, people were just concentrating on this first aspect of being an information provider, that is being a lecturer, at best being a clinical or a practical teacher. So from that role, we now have built up quite a lot of competency in the medical educator to become a resource developer. That is, he should be a study guide producer. He should be also be able to create resource material for the students as well as for fellow faculty members. We all know that curriculum development is an elaborate process. So he has to be a great planner, and this provides him an opportunity to be a course organizer. And now with the present trend of having to submit timetables for the National Medical Commission, people will have to look into all these aspects of curricular planning in a detailed way. In the past, curriculum was always understood to be a table of contents of textbooks. From there, we have moved a large way, and when we are asked curriculum now, the medical educators will be able to give the objectives and competencies that the students should actually be competent with, and also provide the teaching learning strategies for the same and the assessment. So there comes the role for being an assessor, and here not only should be a student assessor, that is there's true student assessment, both formatively and summatively, but he should also be an expert in finding out how the curriculum actually has worked. That means he should be a program evaluator as well. Of course, it goes without saying that he should be a great facilitator, which means he should be actually facilitating the students, talking less, but facilitating them to actually innovate and improvise in their learning. Then we come to the role that he needs to play as a role model, on-the-job role model, as well as a teaching role model. Many of us have followed various different teachers in our own experience, the professors of the past who have been inspiring teachers to follow. Of course, for doing all this, the expertise has to come both from the basic medical content and basic medical practice that he has acquired, and the teaching expertise that he has acquired over a period of time. And nowadays, with COVID coming in a big way, he has to not only cater to students at contact level, but also student at a distance, that is your online learning and so on and so forth. Of course, we are all aware that there is changing trends of medical education everywhere. We are moving away from the classroom type of teaching to more bedside teaching. And it is very important that more than what we deliver in terms of content, how well we are able to deliver and capture the attention of the student is very important. So the modern medical teacher has to be a guru, and he has to be a technologically multimedia expert. He should be sort of aware of computer-assisted technology. He should be aware of digital imaging being used and e-learning principles. Coming to the subject of faculty development, what is the basic definition? Faculty development within health professions education refers to the activities in which staff participate to improve their knowledge and skills as teachers, educators, leaders, managers, researchers, and scholars. Now, we also need to understand that there are these terminologies that are confusingly used in many institutions. Faculty development, what is academic development, what is personal development, and professional development. They all have an interlink within each other, but many people just care for their personal development, which is actually how best they can improve their career path. Faculty development, this is the definition that you get in literature, where it says that development of a faculty via planned workshops and programs for facilitation of faculty performance. It is a dynamic process with the objective of developing and refining the teaching skills, the research skills, and administrative skills in all these workshops. Whereas an academic development, it has been used recently to refer to the development activities and programs that more fully address the multiple roles that a faculty needs to play, which means he has to be developed into the technology, what is available today, and make him responsible to use many of these technologies. Now, there is also this confusion between faculty training and faculty development. To my mind, both are towards the same goal, achieving the same goal. But to do that, we need to have certain objectives that are set, select the appropriate teaching learning methodology. And I'm sure when you do this basic course or the advanced course, many of these principles are being followed regularly. Then the outcome of all this is the trained teacher. But are we doing any effort to follow up his ability? That is why MCI in its wisdom wants the basic course to be repeated every 5 years, so that there is some follow-up action on the various initiatives that the teacher has taken as a result of attending many of these workshops. And there is also no efforts to ensure the application of learner concept back into his own department. So these are some methods that we have to evolve to sort of get a feedback from the faculty, how best these programs have helped them. So this actually goes through the same steps again, and I will not repeat it, but it is important to realize that while the MCI wants that every single faculty member in a medical college should have undergone the basic course mandatorily 100%, there is an expectation that 25 to 30% of them will do the advanced course in medical education. And some of the faculties may be so enamored and passionate that they would start doing a degree course in medical education, which is available in many of the foreign countries. And even in India, some universities have started a degree course in medical education. A small portion of them will definitely get involved into research, which is about 3 to 5%. Now, what are the various domains of FDP in an Indian context? And this will give you an idea of what all can be done. One big bucket is the teaching, learning, and assessment skills. This has to be improved, particularly with the modern assessment methods that are available. One has to practice these skills before it can be put into practice on the students. Then the skills to encourage the faculty in scholarly activities. And this is something in educational context, it could be qualitative research or quantitative research. And this is something which needs to be encouraged as well. These are the days where we talk about quality in every little thing that we do. So there are some mechanisms to actually look at quality assurance in education. Now, this is a training which is probably not included into the basic course in any little way, but in the advanced course, we have tended to give some sort of a exposure for faculties to understand quality assurance in medical education. Academic leadership skills is very, very important. And now that is a domain that actually, again, we lag behind. Now we are all talking about implementing the CBME. Unless the leadership skills are developed amongst faculty to embrace and encourage this, this may not succeed. There is always a scope for individual development and personal development, which has to be kept in mind. But administrative support is another domain which, see, unless the deans are going to be actually trained towards administrative support and curricular governance, I think this does not work out. So there is always a constant interest and conflict of interest between individual goals and institutional goals. Ultimately, several individual goals, when they match and with the institutional goals, automatically the institution also grows. Now, in designing FDPs, the faculty development programs, these are the various components that have to be somewhere finding a place. How exactly we do this is something which groups can work out and deal with that. Adult learning principles have to be used in a big way. And we are all aware of some of this experiential learning, conceptualization and concept building. All these things have to be kept in mind. A caring atmosphere while doing this FDPs is one of the competencies that you can feel develop the various faculties in. Teacher as a scholar is something again which has to be included, and this the advanced course is almost giving an hour or hour and a half session in project development and project-based learning. And that is something which has been happening in the advanced course, but the same thing needs to be included in a small way in your basic course also has to be thought about. The principle of peer learning is another thing, collaborative and peer learning. Again, lot of departments, we are as individuals extremely good, but as a team we fail. And how this can be done also has to be worked up. Also, many of these things, appreciation, feedback, and reward is something which we'll have to work out. The systematic review of these processes has to be taken into account. The other principle is ultimately we all have to become extraordinarily good mentors. And from informal faculty development, we can move on to formal, where some of these principles again have been brought up here in these 4 small boxes there. And it could be from an individual development to a group type of a context, where we need to work up certain workshops and courses, doing work-based learning, community of practice, peer coaching. There are several principles that are available, and I'll quote you the article which I want you to look at when this can be introduced. Overall, in the changes in the learning style, now you know that even in schools, we find students want to become adult learners. So when they come into higher education, particularly into MBBS and BDS type of programs, we have to use several of these adult learning principles like active experimentation, concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization. So keep asking. The student should be constantly asking, what is it that I'm learning? So what if I learn this? And what next? So these questions should continuously be in the mind for us to move into the changing paradigm of learning styles amongst our students. These days, the students want a lot of autonomy in terms of what they are learning. They expect quite a lot of self-directed learning principles. Now, unless the teacher is trained towards providing this opportunity to the student, what I started off by saying that transferring as a didactic lecture from one teacher to the student may not work out for medical education in a big way. The teaching practices and approaches, I think the new CBME curriculum is giving you a lot of opportunities for this, like early clinical exposure, how exactly you are going to provide it to the students and how you are going to integrate this into the system of education in medical schools. System-based practice, how are you going to impart communication skills? In our time, communication skill was always developed by the individual himself. And as an intern, when he goes to meet the patient first, he is lost actually how exactly he is going to do this. And clinical skills was another gap that was noticed that our children were not very confident of. So these changes have to be brought up in some way or the other into our system. And that is something. And this is a slide which I always project, that the children have changed from generation X to generation Z. And now they no longer will accept the didactic teaching that goes on that used to go on. Of course, things have changed quite a bit. And they are now looking into even advanced methods like nano computing, FaceTime, and WhatsApp, and that type of group to develop their own skills. Now, competency-based medical education, in the whole topic that has been assigned, you would see there are two components. One is the faculty development and how faculty development can help in the competency-based medical education. So we need to understand FDP as a concept, as a principle, which we talked about in my initial slides. And now we will talk about competency as we understand, because unless we understand what is competency, we will not be able to advance further in how we can provide these skills. And competency is an observable activity of a health professional integrating multiple components like knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values. Gone are the days when only knowledge would help. Today, knowledge can be got from the computer by any student without the help of a teacher. So we have to pay a lot of attention how we are going to deliver skills, deliver attitudes, and deliver values. And that is why this is very, very important. Now, we have developed a CBME, but in the booklet, if you see, there is nowhere any mention about entrustable professional activities, which is the real spine behind a CBME. This is because a lot of people thought that this principle of entrustable professional activities can only happen at the postgraduate level. No, at least some sort of a certifiable skills at the undergraduate level has to be worked out. And unless that is worked out, I think the whole CBME curriculum will not succeed, and we'll have to define this. Now, these are all being identified on a subject-wise basis and a phase-wise basis. And once these are done, we should be in a position to see whether the students have achieved this or not. Now, what exactly is CBME? CBME is an outcome-based approach to the design, implementation, assessment, and evaluation of a medical education program using an organizing framework of competencies. So the first step towards CBME has already been done. Most of the departments or the medical colleges have been provided with 3 huge volumes of competencies that have to be developed in students, which includes not only the bigger competencies, the larger competencies, but also quite a lot of sub-competencies and objectives. So this is the basic difference in a competency-based education. That is from fixed length, variable outcome. We are moving towards variable length and defined outcomes. The focus point is the health needs of the society. That defines the various competencies that the student should be competent with. And the curriculum itself is run on the basis of the competencies that he should be aware of, and he should be able to perform. And then the assessment, unless the assessment is changed to actually assess whether the students are competent or not, I think the system would fail. I'll not go into the depths of this particular side. It's more theoretical that there is a vast difference between traditional model education and competency-based education. What are the various prerequisites that are required for us to actually do the CBME curriculum? Of course, the faculty development is one of the most important steps. So the trained faculty members on the various aspects of CBME and committed faculty members are very important, but leadership support and administrative support, curricular factors in terms of defining the various competencies, defining the various milestones, the entrustable professional activities, and the certifiable skills are very, very important before we can do. And student factors, of course, we all think that when we are aware, that is enough. But in my mind, unless these competency documents are also supplied to the students to know what they are expected to learn, I think that disconnect will continue to be there. So this is something which we also need to do. Now, what are the sort of steps that we have to take in order to achieve this? CBME actually involves complete revamping of teaching and assessment methods. Most institutions are right now toiling with the idea of how exactly this can be done. The modules design should be flexible and allow trainee to acquire competencies in a continuum at his own pace. You cannot still tell that the student has to clear his MBBS exactly in 5.5 years and things like that. It is a question of whether he has attained the competency or not. So there is a paradigm shift that needs to happen even at the ministerial level and the NMC level before a student is actually certified as competent and capable of practicing on the ground. The low faculty student ratio is another challenge that we are facing, which does not allow for free time for the teacher to sort of do all the elements of competencies that he needs to develop in a student. Now, this I'm quoting with all the examples that I have received from observing several colleges toying with the ideas of how exactly they will do this. And many faculties have told that they need more number of faculties in each department to do this. The assessment pattern still has not completely changed. The formative assessment is moving towards that. And this strategic augmentation of workforce is also another important step. Technology has moved fast, and we have to keep pace with that. And unless you're going to have the bandwidth to do this, many of the CBME principles may not be possible for faculty to actually make the students do and also observe. Interactive whiteboards are a common feature now. The video casts, the podcasts, these are also technologies that are allowing students to learn this. The interactive patient simulator, many colleges have not even invested in this particular development. Procedural simulation is another one. Now, all these things the student can do it at his own time, and they are recorded through cameras which are fitted there, and it can be observed by the teacher at his own time. The blogs and the audience response systems are other technologies that can be also used. Now, the interactive patient simulator, I'm sure your institution possesses one, and the computerized one is able to give experience for the students in this in a very big way. Now, screen-based simulation, where all these things are done by the computer itself, it is able to give you a situation of hypoxia, hypoglycemia. Any of these situations can be put on the computer, and you will have appropriate records of the vital elements that have to be checked in the patient. And unless you provide the appropriate treatment module, this does not proceed further. The audience response system introduced in various lecture halls and major other ambiences that you are providing also provides for you to know how effective your teaching has been and how you need to improve for future. So there is a large gap between what we were doing in this last 20-25 years and what we have started doing in the last 2-3 years. And people are all developing many ideas, and they are innovating quite a lot for the benefit of the student at the end of the day. What are the NMC initiatives? It was in the year 2010 or 11 that they created the vision document for 2015, which is now advanced to 2025. It has created a structure for communication flow. The nodal and regional centers in various medical colleges have been set up. The core curriculum committee and 8-year curriculum development process is a success story in itself, starting from the UG group that was set up way back in 2009-2010 to the expert group and the reconciliation group that were also at work. Faculty development initiatives through the NMC, I would just revise by saying that the original program started in 2009 through the regional centers and the nodal centers to conduct basic courses. This has undergone quite a lot of transformation, and the revised basic course was put in place in 2015. ATCOM module, as was used to be done on a single day for all faculty members to adapt some of these newer elements of teaching learning. And this used to be for the entire day. Now that has been concised into a 2-hour program into the basic course itself. The advanced course was a real development in 2014, which is following the principles of FAMO fellowship. And it is an intense program where research ability of the teacher has been brought out through a project that he has to perform and show. The curricular implementation support program was introduced, and this has been done for phase 1 and phase 2 since 2018-19. And this has helped the teachers also to put forward some of these programs like foundation course, early clinical exposure, skills training, and so on and so forth. Overall, the graduate medical examination of 2019, I urge all the faculty members to go through it, because a lot of elements and principles have been brought into that document itself. And I already talked about the competency booklets. Now, ultimately, the mistake that the Medical Council probably did in 1997 has been overcome in 2009. The regulations were not a problem. It was a huge book that was developed way back in 1997. But however, this did not get transmitted to all the faculty members and used to lie only in the cabinet of the Dean of the Medical College. Since 2009, we realized that unless a curricular reform or curricular development can only happen if the faculty is developed towards that. That is why this intense activity, and our council is about the only one in the world which has provided so much of financial help to various institutions to do the faculty development programs since 2009. The initial thrust was towards faculty development in basic course. Then it went on to the revised basic course, the ADCOM module. There is a lot of help that is provided through NMC by giving structured resource material for many of these programs. And they also provide financial help for the resource persons to do this program. There is supervision of the programs in all medical colleges through observership type of help. The initial days, there was a coordinators workshop for the medical education coordinators, medical education unit coordinators. Now, after all the coordinators were developed in this on a one-day program, this has been given away. And the advanced course in medical education and the CISP are other efforts. And overall, it might interest you to know that totally more than about 60,000 medical faculty across the country have been developed in this basic medical workshop. Now, background of the evolution of these activities through NMC, it is nice for you to learn how the Medical Council progressed in its thinking. Every medical college was expected to have a medical education unit in the 1997 regulations. But you'd still found that amongst the nearly 300 colleges or so at that time, hardly 40-50 colleges really did good activity in this regard. But a lot of colleges used to just have one room with a table and chair, calling it as medical education unit. Then at Sri Ramachandra, of course, the medical education unit did coordinate with the Harvard Medical International, which was really influential for us to go through the integrated curriculum. And this happened way back in 2006-2007. We also participated in the MCI initiative of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, and which was conducted on a zonal basis in several zones, and the South Zone was represented by Sri Ramachandra. And we were able to consider many of the aspects of medical education during this one-day CME. Then we moved on to the formation of the regional center. We got the status as a regional center through Medical Council, and it was also upgraded as a nodal center in 2010. The CISP program has also been regularly done through the nodal center, both the stage 1 and stage 2 of CISP. It is one thing to develop this program today, but you must understand the MCI helped us to develop all the coordinators and the conveners and co-conveners of all the regional and nodal centers to be trained in these workshops before we could do it for the whole country. We were also pioneers in starting the advanced course in faculty development in 2014, and we are continuing the effort. These are some of the recognitions that we got towards our various activities. So these are now, how did we sort of take this faculty development to its sort of the present state? Is that from only the medical education unit, we moved on to create what is the education unit for health science, other health sciences programs in the university. Then we created the dental education unit, then the basic course and the revised basic course were asked to be done by all the education units. And we were following up with many of the principles that were developed by the NMC towards other colleges as well. The recent addition was the nursing education unit, which was started in 2016, and the pharmacy education unit in 2017. And apart from this basic course and some of the advanced programs, focused workshops are conducted by many of these units towards skills learning, towards blended learning, towards CISP, and so on and so forth. And we were awarded for all these activities, and the photographs are showing some of them. What we did actually, these slides are not very important, but you must realize that what is the stages at which Ramachandra provided various programs. The basic workshops with the purpose of introducing the basic principles, almost 40 programs have been done. Advanced course, 12 programs have been done. CISP, the curriculum implementation support program, has been done for almost all the colleges that come under our purview. We have introduced special focus programs in the form of ICT in medical education and the learning management system training. Now, it is quite one thing to purchase some of the standardly available learning management systems, but it is totally another thing to make the faculty learn that and start using it. Otherwise, utilization will become a major issue and a major problem. Basics of blended learning was done for almost about 316 members. Need-based workshops with the objective of training faculty on the immediate curricular changes and reforms is another thing that is being done. This is not all that important. These are some of the pictures of the various programs that we have been doing at our institution. And you can see that we are not only towards medical education. We have done a lot of programs for the health professions education. This is some pictures of the nursing education that is being provided at dental, so on and so forth. Now, the thing right now is towards simulation-based education, and all our faculty members have to undergo training to do this on a regular basis. And we are also talking more and more about interprofessional simulation training program. Now, we were associated not only with Harvard for the integrated curriculum being introduced, we also got connected with the Hull University teaching hospitals in order to start training our faculty towards development of standardized patients. This is a very important thing, that unless this faculty is going to train some of these ANMs and other paraclinical workers to behave as patients, to give a history, or even to subject themselves to some clinical examination, I think the simulation only with gadgets is not the thing. People have an understanding that simulation means gadgets, but that is not so. We can do quite a lot of things with our own effort in this area. Now, interdisciplinary education is the word now, and we have to combine all these efforts that we have started as separate education units to see how the student experiences the whole health science education in toto. And we have to bring up some special competencies like observational skills, how they can do it, how bedside clinics can be done as a multidisciplinary team round, procedural skills, how they can be imparted, and simulation skills. And these are some of the skills labs that we have both at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels to develop. So now the COVID has brought us to sort of making us more aware and experience this online system of education. This is again a difficult zone, but now with quite a lot of these sort of platforms available, not with very high cost, most of the institutions have adapted to this in terms of introducing a learning management system, introducing e-content creation. See, it is one thing to give didactic lecture like what I am presently doing, but it is quite a different thing to involve them with video lectures. Now, video lectures has to be developed in studios within institutions, and students usually have to be given an activity at the end of every 10 minutes, and that how they perform has to be recorded by the automatic response from the students, and that is how it goes. And the policies and procedures for this also administratively have to be developed. So these are some of these type of workshops that is going on to train our faculty in all these aspects. Some of our faculty are also going out in order to build competency amongst faculties in other institutions. And we have done this in many other institutions. The one which was very prominently done was the All India Institute at Rishikesh, where our faculty were able to go and give this training in Northern India. See, the transfer of educational technology is the word. How it is not enough that we alone know all these things. The entire medical community of medical teachers have to be aware of this, and that is what we need to work up. So I'm almost coming to the end of it, and I'm open to some questions at the end of it. In summary, the field of faculty development has grown substantially in the last 10 years. And to my mind, since 2009, there has been hectic activities. Some of the faculty members in our institution have started feeling that their entire time is being assumed by this particular activity. Formal structured activities in group settings, longitudinal programs are important. That's why the advanced course provides that. And we should also allow people to come in for usage of some of these facilities, even at their times when it is not a regular program. And so that is a principle that we need to also apply. Longitudinal programs tend to yield outcomes that go beyond teaching effectiveness. These are all proven, and there is evidence towards all this. Key features of faculty development include evidence-informed design principles, relevant content. See, so every time we do a faculty development, the matter does not end with the program itself. The feedback that we have received from the various participants has to be analyzed, and this you do at the end of every day and also afterwards in the medical education department, and appropriate changes are introduced. And that's how the revised basic course came into being. In fact, I am of the opinion that the revised basic course needs to undergo further changes, because some of that does not give sufficient time for people to experience some of these methods like virtual ER, virtual OR, and things like that, where they should be shown how these things are conducted. Virtual ward rounds, some of these have to be sort of taken into account. Opportunities for feedback, reflection, educational projects being encouraged. All these things are some of the things that has to be covered in faculty development. It cannot be another effort that people are only interested in getting this certification for the sake of MCI. It should move a lot more into a real conceptual learning, and how each medical teacher, as soon as he assumes a responsibility as an assistant professor, it is a big accountability and big responsibility which is put on him to see that he does things differently. Faculty development interventions have the ability to build communities of practice among parent program participants and in the workplace. So I'm going to stop here, thanking each one of you for a patient listening, but I'm open to some questions. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for that really very informative talk, sir. It is like the need of the hour. All of us are groping with this